Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode. I've got a fantastic guest for you today, Josh Fonger. He's the founder and CEO of WTS Enterprises. We're going to talk all about that. He's a faith-based business consulting, coach, and speaker. I'm really happy to have him on the show, showcase his brand, what his work, and I'm really excited about the conversation. So, Josh, welcome.
Hey, glad to be here, Chris.
Yeah, and we connected through Podmatch, and you're out in Georgia. Kind of talk about your backstory and how you came to do what you do.
The long story short is I had a degree in architecture and got into business development. And then 2008, there was a crash that happened. I think most people are aware of that, and had to kind of reinvent what I was going to do as a career. And at that time, I also had a master's in business. And so what I ended up doing is switching to be a business consultant, which was the opposite of what I wanted to do. I actually wrote an essay about why you should not hire a business consultant. That's a bad idea. And from both sides of the family, they were not pro on business consultants, but that was the only job I could find. And I had a few kids at the time. And so, through a lot of prayer and soul searching, that was where I ended up. And I ended up being a traveling consultant. So I'd fly from location to location to location to flooring stores. So
Uh,
there's about 3,000 carpet ones in Florida Americas. And so I would go to them and help them with inside sales and outside sales and financial projections and cultural redesigns and help them through bankruptcies and hiring, firing, you name it. That was kind of like the traveling consultant guy. And had a lot of success with that and really enjoyed it, but I didn't enjoy the traveling. And I met a guy who named Sam Carpenter. The book he wrote, Work the System, was instrumental in kind of shifting the way I did my own consulting because I realized that when I was fixing a company and hiring a new sales manager, new processes, I would develop a way for them to do work, and then I would leave, and then 6 months later they'd be back to where they were before, or a year later they would have the same problems because some of their key management would leave. They fall back in old habits, and I was like, well, we're solving the same problem again. And I realized that I hadn't actually documented the systems to institute this new reality into the business, this new process. And so the book Work the System, and Sam Carpenter, he's a guy I met in Bend, Oregon when I was living there. And he and I still interact to this day. He's well retired, but the point of his book is that if you see your world and you see your business and your life as separate systems, you're able to work the systems, which is the name of the book, Work the System. And when you work those systems, you're able to build a machine, in this case, a business that can operate independent of you always being there. And so for him, in his book, it's about going from a 100-hour work week down to a 2-hour work week and have his income go up 20 times. And still to this day, he can operate his business and do quite well in it with only spending an hour or two a month in the business. And that book has taken off over the years. It's over 10 years old, the book. And I've been working with Sam for over 10 years. And what I do is take the methodology, the Work the System methodology, or WTS, and help small business owners implement it so that they can mechanically make more in their business and they can mechanically work less in their business, which might mean they just work less hours or less responsibility, or they do other projects, or they retire or sell it. But that's what I do as a coach and a consultant.
yeah, yeah, really interesting, and I love this idea of this. I'm actually going to check out the book on Audible after our conversation. And what's interesting is, I was also a traveling consultant for 2 years, and I got burned out as well. I mean, it pays well, but you're just constantly on the road. And so kind of talk about the core principles of the WTS method and how it transforms the way entrepreneurs approach their business.
Yeah. So the big shift is a mindset shift in terms of you being the business to the business being separate from you and having an outside and slightly elevated view about it. And so thinking more like an owner and less like an employee in the business. And so that it starts with a shift, a mindset. The book talks about that. And then afterwards, it's about setting a clear direction and a clear strategy. We call it a strategic objective. And so I want people to not feel like they have to always be there at the business to babysit it and to direct it. If you have a strategic document that directs the business, then you and everyone else can conform to that. And then again, other leaders and managers and people in your company can grow it without you there. The second core component is operating principles. That's defining the culture. It's defining decision-making guidelines. And with those principles in place, again, you are coalescing everybody around a common set of values and principles to make decisions and run the company so that they know what, good is and what a good decision is. They have the principles that will define it. And then the next component is that they need to actually document the separate systems that make up their business. So if you have a way to answer the phone or answer the door or, do the adjustment if you're a chiropractor or whatever it might be, no matter what you do in the business, there needs to actually be a way to do that. And you want to define what the right way is to do that. And once you do that, then you can onboard and hire and train and cross train and grow your company and have accountability and management and measurements and speed and efficiency all built into the different aspects of your company. But until you're willing to go to that level, everyone's bringing their own version of the best way, and they're all doing it differently. And you have variability, confusion, friction, chaos, inefficiency. And that's how most companies are. And they reach a certain point where they don't grow anymore because the dysfunction has matched the tolerance level of the owner. And so the owner is like, you know what? I can wear this many hats, I can work this many hours. And so my company's never really going to get any bigger than this because I can't handle any more fires and chaos and dysfunction. So they kind of plateau. And most companies do this. They plateau at a certain size, whether that's, 500,000 in revenue or 2 million in revenue, kind of in this range where they have a few people, maybe they have 10 employees, but they reach a breaking point where there's like, you know what? I'm I don't have the infrastructure in my company, the strategy, the culture, and the processes to go any further. And that's when people really, buy into our methodology because they say, you know what, I don't want to be a slave to my own company, and I do want to do more in this business. I have all these ideas, all these things I want for the future, for my family, but I just can't do it because I'm stuck in this business and I don't know why. And so those are my kind of my ideal clients is they've reached that point where they've plateaued and they know they need to shift their model.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And kind of adding on to, what you were talking about is you know, what you're doing as a business performance architect. What is the most common challenge you see in small businesses and how does the WTS method address it?
Yeah, the most common problem is the owner is stuck in the day to day, and what I do in my work is to free the owner from the day to day as much as humanly possible, buy them back 5, 10, 20 hours a week back in their life so that they can start to architect their own business, right? Instead of being reactionary, they can have some time to step back and actually build the future that they want. Instead of just taking the work that comes their way, they can be strategic about how they attract the right work, how they curate the right work, how they do the right work so they get the right result. And then they have control over what comes in and what goes out. And they have control over how other people do what they do. And this control is a good thing because you actually have standards that you can set and meet them. And so I would say that the biggest initial problem with my clientele is that the owners have reached the maximum amount of effort they can put in, depending on their capacity, and they don't have a way out. And they might free up a half hour here or work late some evening or try to work the weekend a little bit here and there to catch up, but they don't have the capacity they need to take that business to the proverbial next letter and so next level. So what I do is I really try to work with the owner on building that freedom first, and they don't typically use it to go on much of vacations, which some do, but they typically reinvest that capacity of time and money back into their business because they know there's a multiplier effect. Because most owners aren't acting as owners; they're acting as very busy employees doing all sorts of stuff, and so they're kind of running companies that have no owners. There is no company that has a vision. There is no company where the owner is actually looking 3 months, 6 months, 2 years, 5 years ahead. They're looking today at what's happening, and that's what they're doing. And that's where they're kind of missing the mark.
And I love this idea of this systems mentality. The other question that plagues business owners a lot of is a yo-yo business. And kind of describe what is a yo-yo business and what advice would you give to entrepreneurs looking to break free from this cycle?
Yeah, well, definitely. So, and I've kind of touched on it before, but the idea of a yo-yo business, and I was trying to explain this to another podcast I was years ago, and it just stuck, is that their company is attached to a string, as in they might go down, they might go up, but they've hit a level where they're not going any further. So they go from, gosh, we're going down, our sales are low, cash flow is low, we've got to do something. So immediately, it's owner gets into sales mode, generating new leads, generating new traffic, calling, following up, getting customers come back in, getting them to pay early. And then all of a sudden, whoa, it's like, hey, cash is coming back in and we're busy. We are really busy. We've got to handle all this work. How are we going to handle all this work? And the owner goes into, oh, I'll get in there. I'll roll up my sleeves. I'll drive to the job sites. I'll handle the patients. Whatever it is, they'll work the extra load because no one else will, and they don't have time to hire. And so now they go into delivery mode or fulfillment mode, and they'll do that for a while, and then they'll be like, okay, I see some light at the end of the tunnel. If there's no more clients coming in, got to slow down a little bit, catch my breath. They do that, and it starts going down again. Right? They start having issues with, hey, we need to make some sales. Like we got to pay for these employees, and they go back into sales mode. So they kind of go back from feast or famine again and again and again. And you can look at their numbers and their financials, and you can see like this company kind of they grew, and eventually they hit their plateau point, and then they became a yo-yo business. They kind of just fluctuated with some good years, some bad years. I don't know, 3% growth every year, not really going anywhere. But they're just kind of staying the same. And when the owner puts a lot of effort in, they kind of go up for a while. When the owner has to take a little bit of break for family and rejuvenation, they go back down, and it just stays a yo-yo. And that company is very difficult for the owner to ever sell, very difficult to retire, very difficult to get any passive income. And ultimately, it's static, right? I feel like you're going somewhere, but you're not. And I try to let them know that if you do put this infrastructure into place, where you see your business as a business, not as you as an employee, you're going to have the strategy and the principles and the procedures that allow you to generate that extra profitability and quality, and
Yeah.
also allow you to grow a team to do the work without just you doing the work.
Yeah, and I love this idea, this system mindset. Kind of free yourself from your business, work on the business rather than working in the business. And now you have software, AI, you can hire people. So one thing that also stood out to me is your background in architecture and MBA. How has it influenced your approach to business consulting and coaching?
Yeah, I think that the way it has affected me is that I'm more strategic, right? Less reactionary. I would rather develop and design a solution to a problem that's going to endure the test of time and last, as opposed to just react and let's just do what's right in front of our face. And I'm kind of more long-term thinking and more long-term planning and more about the infrastructure that's going to lead to the result, not just, hey, there's the result. Let's just go do it, right? So I would say that I'm less of a motivational speaker, right? I'm not gonna I'm not gonna get you fired up for game day, but I might be able to build the plan and the structure and the processes so that you're going to win on game day, right? But that requires you to be more of a strategic, longer term thinker than just, hey, we need the guys to give us the emotional speech and get us to shed some tears and go out on game day, which is also important. It's just not what I do.
And then as we kind of end this conversation, for someone new to the work the system method, what would be the first step you recommend to start making more and working less? And what resources can you offer? I know I see a lot of books in the background, places where people can get started.
Sure. I mean, the first place I would say is go to WTSenterprises.com. If you're there, and if you're watching some video, you can get a summary of this book. This book is in its fourth edition, Work the System. It's a great book. It has changed thousands of people's lives. So I always say, hey, start there. If you like this concept, you like this idea, you like what I'm talking about, yeah, I've got programs there. I do coaching, I do consulting, and that's really what my goal is in life is to help busy entrepreneurs, busy business owners, busy managers get free from the day to day. And we just take them through a series of programs that will make that happen.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love that. And then kind of how can people follow you, check out your work, your website, follow you on social media, etc.
Sure. The best place would be the website, WTSenterprises.com. We do a little bit on social media, but it's not really our platform. We don't really spend a lot of time there. I do have my own podcast, and I'm sure if you Google my name, you'd find I'm on 100 other podcasts like this. But that's really our main thing is website and working with clients. And I'd say that Sam Carpenter and I are not the flashiest people on social media. So if you go there, there's going to be probably more fun places to go than our place.
Yeah. And for all the audience out there, let's thank for a wonderful conversation and be sure to check out all the links and resources that will be in the show notes. And with that, thanks so much for coming onto the podcast.
Hey, thanks, Chris.